Hey y'all, it's Jennifer. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am coming to you with a book haul. And so this is going to be partially physical books, partially ebooks. So this is also going to kind of double maybe as my summer TBR. So these are books that I'm really excited about right now and that I'm really looking forward to getting to. Let's go on and get into this. I think the majority of these are fantasy, but I think maybe we have some lit fic and historical fiction in here as well. So let's go on and get into this. The first that I have here is Possession by A.S. Byatt. This was kindly gifted to me by Melissa House, who is a great subscriber. Thank you so much. So many people have told me over the years since I started a channel that I would absolutely eat this up, and especially in the years since I got into the romantic poets. And so this is about, I think, two scholars, and they are investigating two poets of the 1800s of the Victorian period. And they are reading their letters and reading their work and trying to construct a narrative of their lives, I think. And it does sound right up my alley. It sounds really great to me. I am really looking forward to starting this. It is so much bigger than I thought, but I'm really excited about the fact that apparently they invented poetry for these poets that is going to be included in here, which I think sounds really fun and exciting. I'm getting ready to go to the beach, and so I picked up a few things that I knew I would really want to carry down there when I go to the beach. I just like to sit on the beach and read basically all day, every day. So I really wanted some lighter fare, but something that popped up for me, and I believe this was on Amazon as kind of a recommendation, it was Loyalty by Lisa Scottoline or Scottoline. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. I know she is really, really big in kind of the thriller world, but this is historical fiction about the start of the mob in Sicily. I know. I literally cannot resist a book that is about the mafia. I can't. I cannot. And it's a miracle to me that at this point I have not yet read The Godfather, but I feel like that's probably going to come for me. But this sounds really, really great. I think it is a standalone historical fiction, and it sounds really interesting to me. I really think this is going to be right up my alley because I have really enjoyed mafia romance, but I have really enjoyed more books that I have read about the mob or the mafia that weren't romance centered. I like romance to be in there, but it doesn't have to be strictly a romance book for me to enjoy it. And I think I learn a little bit more about it from books like this. So I'm really excited about this one. I am definitely carrying this to the beach. My book of the month pick this month was The Last Word by Taylor Adams. I have not yet read any Taylor Adams. I know that he's pretty famous for No Exit. I have not yet read that or seen the adaptation of it, but this is about an author, I think, who is taking vengeance on a reviewer who left a really poor review. So I think this is going to be kind of fun and a little bit kitschy maybe, but it's also going to hit a little bit close to home, those of us reviewers who have ever left a poor review. But I think this will be really fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I have heard next to nothing about it at this point, so I'm really curious to know what everyone's feelings on this are. But I really love books where authors are the main characters, or books where books and publishing are talked about. That's an interesting trend to me, to see a book analyze kind of the industry that it's within. So I think this is going to be really fun, but I think this is one that I'm also probably really going to be thinking about afterwards. We then have Clytemnestra by Costanza Casati. This is a new release, a new Greek myth retelling. Every year at this time, all I want to do is read Greek myth retellings. And so this is one that I am really pumped about because I would say now, Clytemnestra is my favorite woman in Greek mythology. I often say that Electra is my favorite, but I feel like Electra is relatable to maybe the teenage mind, the young adult mind. But now that I am an adult, I think I sympathize far more with the mother figure than I do with the child. And so I am really, really excited about this because I have heard it is so vastly different from other Greek myth retellings. I think there are a lot of invented scenes in here, and I think there are a lot of allusions to different versions of the myth. And this is also supposed to encompass the entirety of Clytemnestra's life and not just the portion of her life that focuses on vengeance. If you know nothing about Clytemnestra, she was the wife of Agamemnon. And if her story is unfamiliar to you, I really do think you should read it blind. I think you should go in without knowing where it's going because it's wild from start to finish. But I love her, and I love kind of the theme of female rage that is present in her story. I am really excited to see a retelling that is entirely devoted to her and that's not split into Electra or also perspectives from Helen. I expect that Helen will probably play a pretty large role in this book. Helen of Sparta, Helen of Troy, was Clytemnestra's sister, and I think their relationship to each other is absolutely fascinating. I am really pumped about this. I'm carrying this to the beach. I think I'm probably really going to love this one. Who gave in to the hype? Yeah, it was me. So this is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This is really why I got it. I'm gonna be honest. I am going to be honest. I am a magpie, and when something is just shiny and pretty, I'm attracted to it. And so that's really why I wound up with this. This is a new adult fantasy romance, I believe. I thought it was just fantasy, but I have since seen many reviews this week alone that refer to it as a fantasy romance book. But I saw a lot of buzz about this, it seems, prior to its publication. And this is set at kind of a magical college where people are training to be dragon riders. It made me instantly think of Fireborn by Rosaria Munda, which is one of my favorite series of all time, and it is about dragon riders and also about a dragon riding school. I don't think this is going to hit the depths of the Fireborn trilogy. I really, truly don't. But I think this is going to be fun anyway. But there are so many mixed reviews. People either love or hate this. And I think a lot of the people who really, really love this are kind of the TikTok girlies. And I think it's interesting. I read an article just this past week that was talking about BookTok and how a lot of people who are on BookTok sell a book very, very well. But a lot of the people who are on BookTok are creators who have just now gotten back into reading in the past few years. And that's why it seems like BookTok recycles a lot of titles that were really big on BookTube a few years ago. And if you're just getting back into reading, basically everything you read seems good to you. And so the article was kind of about how people are selling what might be termed subpar books very, very well on BookTok. And I'll be interested to see how I feel about this because a lot of people have made some very high comparisons to this. And a lot of people have said this is their favorite book of the year. I hope that's the truth for me. I'm in my fantasy era and I feel like I'm in my fantasy romance era. So I feel like I'm really going to enjoy this. I also wanted to get this because the main character deals with a chronic illness, and I am really interested to see how that is going to be dealt with. Last night I went to get my nails done, and while there, I went over to Barnes & Noble, and I went for one specific reason, and that was for Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I know you're all going to say in the comments, Jenny, you haven't read Babel yet. I know, and I know that I need to fix that. But this is R.F. Kuang's newest book. It is a contemporary that is also weirdly about the publishing industry and about books. But this is kind of a satire that is really lampooning publishing as an industry. And it's about a white author stealing the manuscript of her Asian friend. This has had nothing but rave reviews from early reviewers, and I am really, really pumped about this. I think I'm going to absolutely love it. I feel like this year I've read a few books that really took on the publishing industry and also writing, and I think they're fascinating. I feel like it could be very self-referential, but I also think it's really insightful to look into an author's process and to see how they would discuss it in fiction and whether it's true to what they actually do. I have heard nothing but good things about this, and really the instant that she sent out her newsletter and she announced this, I knew that I wanted it. I am subscribed to her newsletter, and if you are not, you should be, because I really, really enjoy reading her newsletter. I think this is going to deal with some heavy topics, but I think it's also going to be pretty lighthearted and funny. So I'm also carrying this to the beach, and I'm really looking forward to it. The last of the physical books is another book that I picked up at Barnes & Noble last night. One for My Enemy by Olivie Blake. This is going to be third time's the charm with Olivie Blake. I've given one of her books 3 stars and one of her books 5 stars. And I feel like this has the makings for another 5-star for me. This is kind of Russian mythology inspired, I believe, but it's also historical fiction that is set in the 1920s, I think. Oh my gosh, I just opened it up to read the description. Look at this. Wow. Oh my gosh. I love that there are often illustrations in Olivie Blake's books. What are the end papers? Obsessed. I know that it deals with Koshi the Deathless, and that's kind of a buzzword for me because Deathless by Catherine M. Valente is one of my favorite books of all time. It's a weird one, and I don't recommend it often because I just think it's a really bizarre book, and it's meant for a very particular reader. I am intrigued by this. I feel like I have tried to keep my knowledge of the plot very minimal, and I am glad that I've done that. I know that it will be beautifully written because it's Olivie Blake, and I know it will be indulgent and rich, and I just can't wait to get into this. I wasn't going to carry this to the beach, but maybe I will. Now, would y'all like to know what I have recently picked up on my Kindle? By the time you've seen this, you will have seen that I did an entire reading vlog around Atalanta by Jennifer Saint. So I hauled this and then I read it. Obsessed. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was very interesting. I don't know that I like it as much as Electra by Jennifer Saint, but I still really, really enjoyed it. I am currently reading Haunting Adeline. Please do not unsubscribe. Please don't judge me. This is a safe space. This is a safe space. Y'all know I'm unhinged and you know I read everything. I want to explain myself here so bad, but I feel like explaining it makes it worse because I was reading a one-shot on Tumblr that was inspired by Haunting Adeline, and it was so incredibly good, like honestly Pulitzer Prize winning writing, honestly. And when they said this was based on Haunting Adeline, I immediately downloaded it. I have Kindle Unlimited, you know. So this is a dark romance, and I am not at any portion yet that I would call dark. So I feel like I'm still naive. I feel like I'm still a sweet summer child when it comes to this book. A lot of people hate this, but a lot of people love it. But it is essentially a stalker romance where a girl falls in love with her stalker. And all of the trigger warnings at the start of the book truly have me terrified. I'm scared, but what I want to say about it so far is that there's a really interesting mystery element where our main character's great-grandmother also had a stalker and she was murdered. And so the question is, did her stalker do it? And it's set in a really creepy house that is apparently haunted. I don't know. I'm vibing it so far. I'll let y'all know, but I did pick that up this month. We then have also from Kindle Unlimited, I picked up Blood Mercy by Vela Roth. This, I think, is a vampire romance, if I'm not mistaken. It might be fae, but I think it's vampire. And I picked this up because I really enjoy fantasy romance. I'll be honest with you, I really do. A lot of the time, what bothers me are the male characters, and I could do an entire video on how I've been analyzing my relationship with romance since getting into it last year, and wondering, do you have to find the love interest attractive to be able to enjoy a romance? I don't necessarily think that's true, but it really does help me. And one thing that is completely unattractive to me is really the arrogant, talkative hero that is in a lot of these fantasy romances. I want a man that's soft, I want a man that's sweet, and I want a man that is quiet. I feel like I'm not asking for the moon here. I feel like I'm asking for Azrael from A Court of Thorns and Roses. He's really my ideal here. Azrael, Lucian maybe from A Court of Thorns and Roses. I just like people who are quiet, but who are also nice, you know? And I don't feel like that happens a lot in fantasy romances. A lot of the time it's kind of a damaged, very arrogant type hero. And this apparently has a very sweet, sweet romance at the heart of it, but it's also political fantasy. A lot of people have recommended this for fans of, in general, adult fantasy because there's a lot of politicking going on in this series. I am really excited about this one, and the cover is stunning. Okay, the romance section is going to be finished, I promise you. I picked up North of the Stars by Monica James. This is a Viking romance. I don't think I have to say anything. If you've been around on my channel for any length of time, you know I love Vikings. And I have heard good things about this. This is a duology. I have heard really good things about this. And I'm excited. People have compared the main character to Uhtred from The Last Kingdom, who is the love of my life. And so I'll be the judge of that, first of all. So I'm really excited about this. I'm going to read this at the beach because I feel like at the beach, I really just want to, you know, turn the brain off and relax for a little while. I'll let you know how this goes. I have read many Viking romances in my day. And I never talk about them on my channel because they often enrage me, especially romances that were written maybe 20, 30 years ago, because there is so much essay on the page that I really just can't take it. I mean, we are reading a fantasy. This is a romance. There doesn't need to be so much dubious consent on the page or non-consensual stuff happening on the page without you warning me. And the only time where it works is if a character is into it. And in a lot of Viking romances that were published in the late 70s, early 80s, even into the 90s, the chick is not into this, you know? And so I just can't really read them, and I never want to wrap them up on my channel. I'm sure in terms of historical accuracy, I mean, you kind of have to assume this went down 9 times out of 10. So I'm going to be interested to see how this one deals with it. I think it will be the most modern Viking romance that I've ever read, but I am intrigued. I also picked up Strike the Zither by Joan because this is a retelling of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which is a Chinese classic. And I attempted to read an abridged version of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms last year, and I DNF'd it. I don't think it had anything to do with the story. I thought it was really intriguing. I just personally didn't get on with the abridgment. So I'm really interested to see how a retelling goes. I have enjoyed Joan in the past. This would also be 3 times the charm because I have liked one book from her and I have hated one book from her. So I am interested to see where this one falls. I think this is historical fantasy. I am really, really looking forward to this. Again, an absolutely beautiful cover. We then have Flowerheart, which has been sold to me as a cottagecore fantasy. Need I say more? I think this is going to be very sweet, very wholesome. I think it's going to be cozy fantasy. And if you want to know, while I have been in my fantasy era this year, cozy fantasy is not a genre that has ever really intrigued me, and it's not one that I feel like I would get on with. So this is me really stepping out of my comfort zone, I feel. This was on a Kindle Daily deal last week for 99 cents, and I just could not pass it up. A really beautiful cover as well. This is one I have heard people pick up, but I don't know that I have heard any reviews of this. So I'm interested to see how it goes. I think it sounds really cozy and really fun. I think it sounds ideal for this time of year, kind of with spring turning into summer. So I'm really looking forward to reading something that has to do with flower magic, I think is what this book is about. Last but not least, I have picked up the Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy by Kerri Maniscalco. This is, I think, fantasy romance, and it is set in Sicily in some kind of unnamed time period with fae who represent the 7 deadly sins. I read the first one of these when it came out because I was really, really interested in reading Italian historical fantasy when I was working on my historical fantasy book that is set in Italy. And so I really wanted to see how other authors were approaching different time periods and different settings in Italy. To me, it felt like the setting and the time period just was very confused. But it seems like I remember enjoying the romance. I feel like a lot of people have compared this to Caraval, and I said, say less. I mean, really, I'm going to pick it up. I loved Caraval, and anything that has been compared to it, I'm really interested in. But I know that she is spinning off this series, and so I was really interested in picking up the trilogy, so I got a box set. My mom is also really interested in this trilogy, and so we're gonna buddy read it together, and I think that will be a lot of fun. So those are all of the books that I have recently picked up. I am really excited about all of them. I hope that I can really get to them very quickly. My goal this year is to read books as they come in. I don't know that I have been all that successful with that goal, but I don't actually feel that bad about it. I do feel like it's only been a few things that have slipped under the radar for me. But I am really excited about all of these. I would love to know down below if you have read any of them. I would love to know what you've been hauling recently. But that's going to be all for me today. I hope you're all having a great week. Happy reading. Goodbye.